video player here through 1 so you can see what we're working with. All right, so we take this back and just look at your face here. You're relaxed here, mouth's open, you're relaxed. But as soon as you get that mouth closed, we can just see there's tension in your face, and that gets more and more and more as this delivery develops. Okay? And because your head or your face is getting tight and you're stressing and you're holding your breath in, your shoulders now are going to start to hunch up and then get tight. Right there. Right there. Okay? Your cheeks are all swollen up. You're holding your breath. You're biting your lip. Your shoulders creeping over your chin because that's getting tight now. We need to be relaxed here. All right. If we're tight and tense, we're not going to be able to be explosive. And that's the only thing that we're trying to be while on the mound is explosive. So we start relaxed, nice little breath, and then we just hold it. And then we get tight, and then we get tense. And now, because we're so tight and tense, we're not moving anywhere. If we look at that head of yours, it just stays right there. It's still at that same plane that it was before. You just went straight down. So you have gained no momentum down this mound. And you have sanken yourself into a lower position that now puts this foot closer to hitting the ground. Yet this whole body needs to travel way out here and get this foot way down here. But yet the body is still in the same exact spot it started in. It's just kicking the foot out. You're just kicking the foot out. We need to be leading with the hip, and that's why we lift this leg nice and high, getting this foot far away from the ground so it can travel a lot farther, as opposed to it being lifted this high. It only has this far to go. Okay, so we got it nice and high. We got the hip out in front by it being angled. This is a great leg lift. But now we need to start getting it going. Get momentum going. So then momentum then can be used with our back leg to drive our body out even more, to rotate our lower body even more. But because we got no momentum here, and we just sink, and now that front foot is so far out in front that it is what's moving us. We can see it's that front foot swinging is moving your body down the mound. We don't want the front foot to be moving our body. We want the back leg. The back leg moves our body. But we can see here how it's just your front leg is just swooping out and your body falls down to the ground. Just swooping out and it falls down to the ground. Swoops out and just falls down to the ground. So now that we've gotten into front foot strike here, all right, front foot strike is once this foot hits the ground, boom, that's front foot strike. At this point in time, whatever power your lower body has supplied will go up. But we can see your back foot is still flat up against the rubber here, so we know that you have not driven yourself to the target. We can see that your waist is still right here, your belt buckle's right here, toe is straight, this foot is not all the way open, this knee is bending inwards, This knee has not even rotated yet. So if all of those things are true, foot's flat, knee hasn't rotated, foot is angled in hard, our femur bone is angling inwards, our kneecap is facing third base dugout. We know if those are all in those positions, there's no way our waist could have rotated. Our hips did not rotate. So now at this point, like we said, once this foot gets in the ground, all that lower body needed to do action and create power to send it up to our upper body. But because our lower body did not do anything, our upper body now needs to do everything. And when the upper body needs to do everything, it cannot do it quickly. It cannot do it smoothly, it cannot do it properly, and it cannot do it safely. It's also going to have to do it much slower because as these shoulders now go to rotate to try to throw this baseball, because the lower body did not do anything, the upper body, as it rotates, is going to have to rotate the foot, the knee, the hip, and it's going to have to pull it and drag it forward. So as these shoulders rotate, notice how the hips are rotating. Notice how the knee is rotating. Notice how the back foot is now starting to go forward. But because of it being not happening in the lower body before this foot hits the ground, and now the upper body having to pull that lower body forward, this arm now has to drag through. And now look at the direction of the elbow at this point in time. It is very much going up, 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 up. And at the very end, it's trying to get around that up to get it to go back down. But it's so difficult to do because of the way your shoulders rotate, because of the lower body not rotating. All right, so if we get some comparables here of some younger guys for you to look at and how their lower bodies work, just watch, okay? Nice high leg lift, just like yours. So if we make this a little bit smaller, make yours a little smaller. There, here, we get you into your leg lift. Boom. Oops. Top of your leg lift, you're here. Top of his leg lift, about right there. Okay? But now let's watch. His hip is out in front. Your hip is out in front. Let's watch him lead with this hip. All right, let's watch him lead with the hip. Now the foot finally gets out in front. Okay, let's watch you. Now the foot's already out in front. Okay, so let's just look at the hips. The hip, and see how far away it is from the pitching rubber. That way we know how much we've actually driven those hips to the target. We can see that your back hip is not any further away from the rubber, really, than it started once that foot gets out in front of you. Okay? Versus, look where this back hip is at in relation to the pitching rubber. Okay? That's because his hips have been going towards the target and his body's going with it. Okay? There's that distance versus this distance. All right? You just pretty much going down, 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 tilting your shoulders back, 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 and popping your butt out, pushing your butt out, pushing that foot out, as opposed to just letting the hip go. Letting the hip go. Watch the difference in this back leg during that. Watch the back leg here. Hip leads the way. Leads the way. Leads the way, and then we start going. versus your back leg during this part is just not really doing a whole bunch. Okay. So now that he's created this momentum, he can now use his back leg to drive. Boom. Let's get this out of the way and get that up there. Okay. Watch what this back leg is going to do. It's going to drive and rotate. Drive and rotate. Drive into foot strike. Okay. Now he's at foot strike. We got this femur bone going straight to the target, kneecap straight to the target, feet straight to the target, belt buckle to the target. Back foot has driven through that big toe, kneecap facing the ground. All that helps the hips get fully rotated and the chest stays back. Upper, lower half separation. The more that we can get that lower body to fire, boom, into foot strike, lower body fires, lower body fires, that energy of that rotation and that drive now gets sent up. So that now it's just the upper body accelerating energy straight to the target. Straight to the target. Straight to the target. And then able to come through. Okay. So again, we'll get him into foot strike right there. And then we'll get you into front foot strike right there. And now let's look at these positions here, okay? All right, so we'll start in the back. Your back foot is still pretty much fully on the rubber, has not driven away. So how did he get there with that back foot? Watch what it's doing. Boom. Watch what it's doing. Boom. Driving through and away. Driving away from that rubber. Okay? Versus what you're doing into foot strike is just heel comes off the ground. Heel's coming off the ground back here. You can see the heel's on the ground here, and then the heel comes off the ground when you get in the foot strike. So if your heel is just coming off the ground, we're just shifting weight from back to front, back to front, back to front. Versus driving the body from back into that foot strike. Boom. 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 Okay. Foot strike. Let's look at the back knee then. Your kneecap is pretty much right here. His kneecap is straight down into this ground here. So with the back foot and the back knee in that position, he's able to get his back hip into this position, which allows his belt buckle to be facing the target. Okay. He's also opened up this front leg to be in a squared position to his target and not going towards third base dugout with this leg. That allows the hips to get fully rotated. So his femur bone going straight to the catcher, his kneecap straight to the catcher, his shin nice and straight to the catcher, foot nice and straight to the catcher. Okay. Now let's look at this point in time. Once that foot hits the ground, we need to be getting that glove to start to finish. This arm should be getting straight across our body and either slightly back, either straight up or slightly in at this point. We look at you and we can see this arm is going down. That's not a very good, safe, healthy position for our elbow to be getting at this point. We can see that because your lower body is not producing any power, your glove side is peeling out, peeling out, peeling out, trying to help get this shoulder going because it's not going to get any power from down here. So this other side shoulder and glove is trying to help it, but it's only creating bad pass with this elbow than to throw that baseball. Versus being able to get out in front and everything be smooth, 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 versus very forced and pushy. Okay? So a lot of things going on up top that need to get changed, but we can't get things up top changed until things down low start working the way they need to. So we need to start feeling that lower body work for us. So I'm going to take you back to the top of your leg lift, take him back to the top of his leg lift, and just see how as he's getting to the top of the leg lift, how those hips are already starting to go. Already starting to go. Already starting to go. And then the hips lead the way. Driving those hips to the target. Not just going down, but driving those hips to the target to get yourself going out. Versus getting tight and tense, sinking, and nothing going anywhere except for the front foot, and now the front foot is out in front, and you've gained no momentum to the target. And with no momentum to the target, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to get your lower body driving and rotating properly on time. Okay? So again, if we get you into this lower body position, we would need to continue going beyond front foot strike all the way to about right here. Okay, so now if we look at these lower bodies, they're somewhat similar of positioning. Okay, but look how much further along your upper body had to rotate just to get that lower body there, versus this lower body just getting there all on its own, supplying and feeding power now to the upper half to do its movements way faster and way more aggressive than it could all on its own. Instead, your upper body had to rotate and pull and drag the lower body to get into this position, using up all of its power that it needs to throw the baseball just to get the body in its full position to throw. And now you're left in this position to just push the baseball out in front with minimal power left over. Very unhealthy for our arm. We can use someone else that's younger than you, smaller than you, but still is able to use the body much better. So we'll get, all right, so his leg, we can stop this right here and say his front leg has gotten in front of his hip, and still the distance that he has traveled is more than you have traveled. By the time your front foot gets out in front, you're still in the same spot. He's getting it out a little bit. But now let's watch how much ground he's going to gain just by this back leg. Okay? Let's watch this here. Boom. Front foot strike. Bring it back. Watch the back foot drive into foot strike. Watch his waist rotate. Watch his knees rotate. Everything gets into a good front foot strike position. Okay? So if we get this here, we'll get this guy back up into his front foot strike position of right here. And then we get you into your front foot strike position right there. Now let's go ahead and, how can we get this so we can see everyone? Put you there, there, and there. Okay, so notice the stride length that these guys are getting because of how much that back leg is working for them. Okay. Let's look where these gloves are at. Gloves swiveling to finish, gloves swiveling to finish. Like I said, arms straight across, slightly in, straight up, or slightly back. Eyes on the target, head on the target. Your face is on an angle. Okay. Look at the legs to the target, shins, femur bones, everything's to the target, belt buckle to the target, back hips rotated, back kneecaps are into the ground, back foot has driven away from the rubber. So now as we continue to throw here, we have boom, 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 getting him there. Here we have boom, 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 getting him to here. This is when the chest gets to squared up. Chest is squared up. We have to go so much longer to get you squared up. And now look at the position you're in. You're leaning over this way. Watch where your energy is going. You're rotating to first base dugout at this point. All because that glove had to pull itself out to try to get that throwing arm some more extra energy because it was so slow rotating because it had to pull the lower body. And now that's what you're left with throwing versus that, that, versus that. Okay? So, a lot of things to work on. A lot of things will help other things work better when one thing starts to work better, and that's your back leg and your hips.